Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. I'm Kelly Wenzel, the CMO of Andela and the moderator for today's session. I hope you enjoyed our lobby music. Every month we try to feature a new artist from somewhere in our talent marketplace. Today we had tunes from Soda Stereo out of Argentina. And so let's go ahead and dive right in. Today we're here to introduce the Andela Talent Cloud. This is our new platform that gives you a unified way to source, qualify, hire, manage, and pay global technical talent. We just launched it last week, and we're here to dive in and explore more on today's webinar. So with that, I'd love to introduce our panelists for the day. So joining me today, I have Courtney Machi and Jake Ricciardi. So Courtney is the VP of Product at Andela. Jake is our Senior Director of Product Management. Let me just give you a quick bit of background on Courtney and Jake. So Courtney has more than 15 years of product management experience, the bulk of which has been spent on working on talent marketplaces, very fitting. And Jake, similarly, Jake has the distinction of being responsible for Andela Talent Cloud, so big day for you, Jake. Also has 15 years of product management and product marketing experience, also working on talent marketplaces. And both of you have, I think, a little bit more than three and a half years with Andela now. So, so excited to have you both today for this discussion. And I'm Kelly Wenzel. I am the Chief Marketing Officer for Andela. I'm a 6-time CMO and just now a little bit more than 6 months into my tenure at Andela. So I mentioned that we just launched Andela Talent Cloud last week. And actually that was at Gartner Symposium. And what I can tell you was that talent is a very hot topic in the C-suite. It may not have been quite as everywhere as Gen AI, which was literally everywhere to the point of exhaustion. However, talent was a really hot topic. And one stat that really jumped out at us and that we thought we would share here with you today was from Gartner's 2023 survey of CIOs and senior business executives. 78% of CEOs are saying that talent scarcity is reaching crisis proportions. So that was definitely an eye-popping stat for us. And, you know, we kept hearing talent come up as a thread in whether it's, you know, a lever in digital optimization or in cloud migration or in the ever-present, you know, or widening skills gap. So before we get into product, I want to spend literally 60 seconds to cover Andela, because I think we have some folks who may not be familiar with Andela, who we are and what we do. So first, let me just say, Andela was founded in 2014 based on a simple belief, which is brilliance is evenly distributed, but opportunity is not. And it is what led the company to set about curating and building what is now the world's largest private talent marketplace. So as of today, we now have 150,000 skilled technologists in 175 countries around the world. 60% of that marketplace is concentrated in emerging geographies like Africa and Latin America, which is definitely a differentiator for Andela. We've served more than 600 clients from enterprise to startups happy to say, and this is fresh data as of first half of this year, a 92% CSAT, customer satisfaction rating. So just a quick bit about Andela before we move on. And I guess the last thing that I would say is when clients are working with Andela today, they're generally coming to us to solve talent gaps in one of three ways. They're looking for individual roles around either, you know, to solve a capacity problem or a skill gap, to hire a fully fledged team for application delivery or an innovation project, whatever it may be, or as a managed team or managed service, like we're contracted for an actual business outcome. So those are predominantly the ways of working with Andela. So with that, Courtney, I am excited to turn it over to you and dive into Andela Talent Cloud.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kelly. So I'm so excited to introduce Andela Talent Cloud. This is a new solution to manage the end-to-end global hiring lifecycle. It is an AI-driven platform. It helps companies source, qualify, hire, manage, and pay global tech talent in one integrated platform. So I'm going to talk through some of the key components of the platform. We are going to get into a lot more detail on each of these later on in the webinar. So just starting off with the talent decision engine. So this is proprietary tech we've built that is at the core of Andela Talent Cloud. It uses AI and machine learning driven algorithms to provide the right match for the job and personalize the experience for users. So I'm going to talk more about this in just a minute because it's super important. So hold that thought. Next, moving on to Andela Qualify. So this is the technology used to assess engineers for particular skills and job fit. It is the only tech on the market that uses real world work simulations to predict on-the-job performance. So the way it works feeds all of the data that we collect, all of the signals that we collect along the hiring journey back into the talent decision engine to ensure we provide the best fit talent for clients. One thing I do want to mention and call out about this, for those who are not aware, earlier this year, Andela acquired the leading developer assessment platform, Qualified.io, and we fully integrated it into our platform. So Andela Qualify is powered by Qualified.io, and Qualified is also available as a standalone product. So, for example, in the poll, we saw that skill gaps is an issue, right? So if you're seeing skill gaps in your workforce, you want to do the work of assessing the existing teams that you have to get a baseline of where folks are. Qualified can do that. Qualified solves for that. If you want to run technical assessments for your org, Qualified can do that. So again, we'll talk a little bit about that later as well, but super important part of powering the Andela Talent Cloud. Next, moving on to Andela Connect. So this is a suite of pre-built integrations to leading VMS and ATS, like SAP Fieldglass, Beeline, Greenhouse, for example. So these are designed to make it really easy and really fast to have Andela Talent delivered to your system of record. So basically, you can plug our connectors into your HRIS and leverage Andela Talent Cloud instantly. And finally, the last piece on here that I'll talk about, Andela Pay. This is our global payout system. It simplifies the process of paying talent no matter where they're located in the world. So we take care of all of that admin overhead for you. It's secure, it's compliant, it's got a optionality for talent. This is also a part of Andela Talent Cloud that will be available as a standalone product. And Jake is going to talk a little bit more about that later as well. So those are the key components. Moving on, I do want to talk a little bit more about the talent decision engine, just because it is so core to Andela Talent Cloud. So what you're seeing here on the screen, these are just samples of some of the many data points or signals across the lifecycle that the talent decision engine factors in. So what it does, the talent decision engine learns from thousands of data points across the hiring lifecycle. So things like skills, experience, talent title, time zone overlap, work preferences, language proficiency, engagement, feedback. All of these things work together and actually make the talent decision engine smarter as time goes on and as more data is collected. So over time, it learns about each client's preferences, it provides more personalized matches, and provides a better experience ultimately as it receives more and more feedback. It's also really fast. So it processes these signals and this feedback really, really rapidly. So it performs at a speed just wouldn't be possible if humans were running the hiring process. So think about it. If I'm looking for a product manager to hire myself, right? I have to create a sourcing strategy. I got to figure out what type of talent I want to reach out to. I have to figure out high concentration of the talent I need. I need to figure out how to get someone with overlapping work hours. Then I have to do the outreach, screen through all the resumes. The talent decision engine does all of that work for me. It churns through resumes, looks at all the interactions, looks at the past performance of talent, the goals on both sides of the equation, right? it cuts down the amount of time it takes to actually make that hire and make a decision, and shortens the time to value, right? So that's the goal here. One last thing I want to mention, the talent decision engine is designed to ensure that bias and subjectivity are removed from the equation here. So for every candidate presented, we're making sure that that is not a factor in how we match. So really, just to kind of sum it all up, of course, this helps us make better matches, right? That's what it's here for. But what we're really doing is aiming to reduce risk, right? So reduce the risk of making the wrong hire, reduce the risk of wasting time, of not seeing a return on your investment. So again, the focus here is really on shortening time to value for you. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Jake, who's going to talk about Andela Talent Cloud in more detail.
Awesome. Thank you, Courtney. So what I want to do is actually take you step by step through the user journey. So what does it actually look like to manage global hiring with Andela on Andela Talent Cloud? And I'll start with sourcing. So the ability to source talent from over 100 countries around the world, getting access to our network of over 150,000 talent. And at its very core is the ability to hire someone for a role or build a team. And so what we use here is a skills-driven approach to setting up a job and making recommendations for a role. So instantly in Andela Talent Cloud, you can create a job, get recommendations from our network, and then identify the folks who are the best fit for your team. You can see on the screen here that you're going to get detail around where the talent is located, some of their primary skills, and also they'll fit within your budget. We also want to highlight our tech-enabled approach, which is you may get instant recommendations, but you might have to refine your results over time. And so we have our team of technical specialists recommending additional matches and helping you get to the right fit for your role. The other thing that I'll mention here is how do we optimize this list? One of the things that we heard a lot when we were first building Andela Talent Cloud is when people are hiring from a talent platform like this, they want to ensure that the results are people who are going to be able to do the job, but who are also available. And so we've actually optimized for responsiveness. When someone is presented in this results list, we're actually using both all of the attributes that Courtney mentioned in Talent Decision Engine, and also layering in who is most likely to be available for your role to start today. And so you can ensure that you're going to have a good experience hiring on Andela Talent Cloud, in part because you're going to only be interacting with folks who have passed Andela certification process, as well as are currently actively looking for roles with Andela. The next thing I'll talk about is Qualify, and Courtney went into some depth around our recent acquisition of Qualified.io. One of the things that we've looked to build into the platform is trust. How do you know that the talent that we're recommending, the person that you're ultimately selecting that you want to interview, has all of the requisite skills for your role? And so you can see in the profiles here, you're not only getting a glimpse of their experience, where have they worked previously, what skills have they used, you're also getting to see what badges or what Qualify assessments have they completed to be a good fit for you and your team. And so in real time, you can actually pull up and see what challenges they've passed, how they performed, what we're actually looking for to score those challenges, and how they've performed against benchmarks in our network, giving you the ability to ensure that when you're hiring with Andela, you know that the person you're getting has met a bar that Andela sets for anyone that we're going to recommend in our network. No more sifting through hundreds of profiles. You can ensure that everybody here has passed our bar, and we're giving you visibility into how we know they're going to be successful with your team.
So exciting for a hiring manager to think about before you even interview, let alone before you hire. You could actually get a glimpse of, well, what's their proficiency? Do they really know, they have the skills? I'm actually a little jealous. I wish we had this for marketing.
So the next step, so we've shown you talent profiles, you've created your job. How do you manage the process? How do you actually hire someone with Andela? And this is where we get into managing a multi-threaded process around setting up interviews, providing feedback, and getting to a point where you can make an offer and have an accepted offer. And all of that can be driven from within Andela Talent Cloud. You can manage your availability. You can set up multiple interviewers to be able to manage the process. You'll see all of your alerts and upcoming notifications around what to do next to get you to a point where you have someone who can kick off, start working with your team, and start shipping code. We've mentioned it before. This is really about how do we remove all of the friction from the hiring process. So having Andela Talent Cloud giving the ability to manage interviews, manage offers, and ultimately manage your contracts can get you to a point where you're hiring as much as 70% faster with Andela and in as little as 2 days. So once you've hired someone with Andela, what's next? We want to give you the ability to actually manage the end-to-end life cycle of talent that you've hired with Andela. And so what you can see here is what we call My Team, where you can view all of the talent that you currently work with from Andela. You can see details around their contract. When did they start? When is the end date? How much are we paying for them? And you can also manage the life cycle. So you can give them recognition and feedback, share with people that they're doing a great job. And all of that feedback then goes back into Talent Decision Engine to ensure that the next time you're managing a job with Andela, we're refining those recommendations and personalizing them further for you, your team, and your company. And then the last step here is Andela Pay. And this is something that we're maybe most excited about, in part because in order to get the best talent into the Andela Talent Network, we need to be able to offer the best value proposition for folks in our network. And Andela Pay has given us the ability to, through a network of vendors, provide the best experience for paying talent anywhere in the world. One of the things that we've learned listening to folks in our network is what works for someone in one country or region isn't what's best for someone in another. And so what we've given folks in the network is the ability to select the best payment option. That includes how they get paid, how they hold their money, and how their money ultimately gets transacted and transferred to them in the way that works best. So that's minimizing transaction fees, minimizing foreign exchange fees, and giving anyone in our network the very best experience and the ability to keep as much of the money as they earned as possible. And as Courtney mentioned, this is something that we currently use for paying Andela talent within our network, but we're also going to be releasing over the next couple of months so that you can pay contractors in over 150 countries directly with Andela.
I'll wrap up before we get to Q&A, and I'll just say, again, if you have questions about the content that we've shared, please put them in the Q&A. I only see a handful right now. So if you have more, please let us know. Essentially, with our marketplace and now the launch of Andela Talent Cloud, what Andela is trying to enable is a new way to build tech teams. We think this is a better, more modern approach than some of the existing approaches, which are slow and monolithic. And if we're to think about, what are the characteristics of this approach? Well, the first, it's intelligent. All the detail that Courtney went into on Andela Talent Decision, the fact that we're leveraging, machine learning and AI to get smarter from all of the signals across the hiring process so that we can help identify who is the right person for the right role at the right speed and cost, and to do that dynamically. And the fact is, when you make the world your hiring pool, you need to use technology because there's simply no way for humans to do it at that speed and scale. So you need a model that's intelligent. Second, is this notion of elasticity. You know, we think about this almost like an elastic mesh network of humans, of talent. And what that allows is flexibility to scale up quickly or down and we all know there's been lots of economic volatility, but that a more powerful way of operating would be that elastic approach or an adaptive approach that makes it easy for you to dial up or down as business conditions change. The next thing we would say is resilient. So think about like the kind of what felt like a meteoric and quick onset of Gen AI, and all of a sudden this rapid demand or increasing demand for, you know, skills and talent in this very specific area. What if your talent pool, you were able to tap into a diverse network of skills readily and available, you know, on demand? I think the other thing that came up in some of our discussions at Gartner last week was also just recognition that more diverse teams are actually more productive. That, you know, adding, you know, that fresh set of eyes, that fresh perspective does help make teams more productive and more resilient. So easily able to weather changes as they occur. And finally, that it's borderless, that it is no longer necessary to think of a constrained talent pool in a certain region, in a certain city, in a certain market. We have the Gartner data here. About 58% of organizations already have talent deployed in this borderless fashion. And they are predicting that this is only going to increase over the years. And while I don't think that we're saying today that's going to make the bulk of your workforce, is there a model here to try this new approach in a way that's going to allow your organization to be more adaptive and operate more quickly? So with that, I am going to take it over to Q&A. So I'll just give you guys a moment to put anything into the Q&A panel. Let me look at what is already here. Courtney and Jake, thank you so much for that. Okay, so first question at the beginning, can you define what you mean by private talent marketplace? Yes, I can. So private talent marketplace. So if you think about other talent providers like Upwork would be a good example. That's an example of a public marketplace. It's more gig oriented, where Andela tends to have much longer term engagements. I think our average tenure is about 18 months or longer. But that's a public marketplace. Anybody can get in. A private marketplace actually requires there to be rigor. There's an application process. There's a vetting and certification process that it takes to be a member, an applicant, certified talent to even be considered within the talent decision engine. You must apply and go through our certification process. And therefore, by that very definition, it's private. It's not open to everybody. So first question, anything you wanted to add there? Jake, I saw you leaning in, or did I get it?
Nope, you nailed it.
Okay.
Thanks, Kelly.
And I guess this is another good one, which is, how are you certifying talent? How much of it is your technology and how much of it is driven by humans? Jake, do you want to take that?
Yeah, I'm happy to. So the way to think about our process is we want to use automated processes as much as possible to ensure that we're evaluating with humans as small of a subset as possible of the folks that we're going to put through into our certified talent network. And so we are using the Andela Qualify process to ensure that anyone coming into our network meets a minimum bar in terms of their coding skills in a set of different areas of specialty. And then following that, we also do a technical interview, which will include a live coding portion, evaluation of work style and communication style and soft skills. And then all of that data and that rubric is actually captured within the Andela Qualify process. So all of that ends up feeding back into Talent Decision Engine and helps us to both assess speed and coding ability in a code test environment, simulating the work skills, but then also ability to then communicate those ideas with another person like you would in an actual workplace.
Yeah, it's kind of like what we heard a lot at the conference last week, right? It's never going to be AI only. It's AI plus humans. And here's a good, this is analogous, right? It's not tech only, it's tech plus humans and what the powerful combination of that can do.
Exactly.
I'm just going to pause
how
1 second. Oh, sorry, Jake, go ahead.
Yeah, and just to add to that, and how do you best apply the human effort to the right subset of the work that you need to do?
Awesome. So I have 2 more questions. I am noting that we only have a few moments left. I want to get to the questions. For the attendees, I just want to call out 2 things. One, you'll see in the bottom of your console, there's some other resources for you available. There's a video, some one-sheets on Talent Cloud. For those of you who are interested in a deep dive, an actual product demo, the webinar format really doesn't make it easy to do that. You kind of have to have preloaded content. But if you are interested in a deeper dive and an actual live demo, a walkthrough of the product, please let us know. We'll obviously get back to you. Okay, so with that, Courtney, I love this question. How are you removing bias? You talked about removing subjectivity and bias. How are you removing bias from the LLM, knowing that AI has bias too?
Yeah, so I'll get it started and then I'll toss it over to Jake to add color to this. So we certainly, when we're creating these matching algorithms, we do not take any PII into account, right? So personal identifiable information, nothing like that is factored into our algorithms. No personalized characteristics, no sensitive data. So the algorithms are just looking at what does the client need and how can we match those requirements with the information that we have, right? So I think that's kind of the first level. Jake, I know you're passionate about this topic, so I want you to add your color to this.
Yeah, this is a great question. Very important to treat this delicately. A lot of bias in AI comes from bias in your training data sets. And so one of the things that we've taken into account is where we do have a human in the loop, where we are generating training data, we are leveraging people from our community who are actually coming from the same communities, the same regions as the folks that we are mostly recruiting in our talent network. And so we are trying to eliminate bias by, in part, using the same communities who are doing our evaluating. And so that ensures that we're eliminating some of the, someone not really being familiar with local customs, local cultures, local nuances that might arise.
Awesome. Thank you both. Well, I want to be respectful of time. We're, I think, like 2 minutes over. So I'll just say to the attendees, if there are questions that you have that came up that we didn't get to, please let us know. If you're interested in a demo, please let us know. Courtney and Jake, I just want to say thanks for walking through the product and showcasing the new technology that got launched last week. So it was a pleasure to chat with you guys a bit about it. So with that, we'll sign off. Thanks, Courtney. Thanks, Jake.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.